Okay, so hey class. So I hope you remember from our visual storytelling from last class that we believe we were leaving you with questions about international news and what it means to be truly international and who international news is for. We think that BBC, Al Jazeera, Reuters, and Maman do some or all of these things listed on the board. We either have diversity, low bias, transparency, multiple perspectives, and something that we found novel and new to explore, empathy. So we were wondering how we could better bring together people from different areas of the world to make it more diverse, to create low bias, and just to form common ground between people from different areas and different perspectives.
So how do we bring together this web of people on the same level? How about someone from Colombia?
Or someone from India.
Or someone from... Oh, we did it. How do we bring these people together, literally, to have a conversation and share their perspectives on the same story or the same idea, based on the same factual data?
We borrowed from the idea of speed dating. So really creating a gathering of different people from different cultures, religious backgrounds, different political beliefs, bringing them together and kind of just sharing their stories and their different perspectives. They would have a short amount of time to really understand each other and tell their story of a political matter. Whether it be the Democratic debates, and I'm hearing from a Republican, that could be interesting and new for me to kind of digest and understand their point of view.
Or whether I'm from India, what does a person in Pakistan or a person in Kashmir think about the same issue that I'm looking at from a different perspective? How does a person in Hong Kong look at the same issue, and how does a person in China look at the same exact issue? What is their perspective on it? And we believe that bringing them together for a short burst of time, 5 to 7 minutes, could expose them to these ideas, and from there on they have the option to connect with each other, much like speed dating. If they feel that they have some sort of an idea that they'd like to talk about more, they can do that. It's their volition. They don't have to love it, they might not have to agree with it, but there is the option of generating that conversation.
The beauty is if you don't agree or if you don't like it, you don't have to talk to them anymore. At least you have that perspective and can share it with different people. So we believe that this is like the overall summation of what we're trying to portray.
So if it's the same twisted cube, someone might see it this way, but someone else might see it exactly in a very different way. But essentially, it's the same object. So how do you see the same thing from different perspectives, but also accept a different way of seeing it?
And we hope that by doing this, bringing together people and understanding how they see something, instead of creating an echo chamber, everyone can have their voice heard.
Questions, comments?
The coordination, again,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Cool, so cool.
Well, I have questions. Or some comments. So would this require physical, so how would you coordinate that?
So,
From the zine, I think we also forgot to mention that this would be a pop-up speed dating event.
and that can
Okay.
travel internationally, so someone in the US versus someone in the Hong Kong, so that we literally try to bring those exchange of ideas.
We also thought about how it could be on a digital platform, like if you can't physically be there but you hear about it, you can like Skype in or kind of tell your story from where the global news is happening.
But what's my incentive? Like, what's the incentive to get people to want to participate?
I think this is for...
Wine.
I just think it's just for your personal, developing yourself, and you just putting yourself out there.
Yeah, and we were hoping that it could be organized as a casual event, like a casual tone to it. It doesn't have to be just common people. We were hoping there could be journalists, experts, and common people coming together to talk about these things. Not particularly wine is the incentive, but we can figure that out. But the idea was to have a casual tone to it, but the issues that we are talking about are very real.
Go ahead.
Oh, would you pick a subject so that people would know already like what they're gonna talk about?
I think very much like speed dating, they like try to cater like who's coming, like how many different people, like how many men are there versus how many women, how culturally diverse they are. So I like those people who are organizing the event would also keep in mind. Like,
So they would be already very passionate, invested in that subject matter? Okay.
But we were also, sorry,
Anymore, the key here would be diversity, and they might or might not have the same level of knowledge about the subject.
but to another way to answer your question, we were also thinking that just like in speed dating, what if there's a brief, but that brief is only about the factual information about that piece of news. So if there was actually a protest in Hong Kong, and then how did it happen, but not someone's perspective on it, maybe that's talked about, that's given as a brief, as bullet points, that this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, without stating what does the event organizer think about it.
I have a question about the fact that you will be providing for this meeting. Is there, do you have any curation on that, and what kind of sources will you choose, or what method that you choose to make the fact more factual?
We've not gone into that much
Yeah,
depth,
great
but-
question to think about.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe some sort of curation to it, because it's an event organized by someone who's taking that initiative.
And what's the follow-up? So I go to this, I participate, what happens next?
Well, you can connect with them,
Okay.
people, because if you're only talking to them for a short period of time, you're left either wanting more or not
Okay.
having anything to do with it. And you
Alright.
have like an option of like matching in speed dating, so you can be matched or even be asked to come to another event again.
Yeah, I think considering those follow-ups and how could they be almost vehicles for that further dissemination of the approach, you know, and encouraging dialogue on those topics.
Maybe the incentive could be like a raffle where you get to travel to a place you've never been to.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
Like that's the ultimate. Because it's
I don't know how to fund that. but
Yeah, I don't know how to fund
great.
that.
From a practical standpoint, your use of the toys was, I love the metaphor with the
Yeah.
cubes and how they're red and blue, that was like
Agreed.
perfect, yeah.
One thing that, so you all are going to be continuing to push on these concepts over the next couple of days, and we'll do some more on Thursday too. Right now, you're working with people who are seeking this kind of broader understanding, these different perspectives. And I'm curious if you had thought of, or if it might be beneficial for you to think about those people who may not be seeking this, but would certainly benefit from it. So just something to put on your radar. Another is coming back to the curation. How might you foster healthy conversation? Because one of the challenges that we're facing in society right now is just kind of digging in your heels and arguing a perspective and trying to get pull someone to your side. How do you prevent it from divulging into that? Huh? Not that you have answers yet, but it might be things for you to think about.
So this doesn't become a shouting match.
Right.
Once
Exactly.
you've gathered all
Exactly.
these people and
Yep.
it blows up
This reminds me a little of Conflict Kitchen.
a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you guys heard of Conflict Kitchen?
You know Conflict Kitchen.
Yeah, I worked on it.
Yeah.
You want to tell them about it quick?
It was an art project by John Rubin, who is a professor over in the School of Art, and it was a takeout restaurant for representing countries that the U.S. is supposedly in conflict with. So you would go to the restaurant. The first one was Iran, and you would go to the restaurant and you'd be given an Iranian food, and it wasn't like they were making it up. They actually went to these countries and studied the culinary aspects of the countries. So you'd be given the food in a wrapper, and in the wrapper would be interviews from people who are in Iran and also people here in this country from Iran, just answering this just very general questions. So you would sort of see the similarity of how alike we are in a lot of ways. How we worry about our kids, how we want prosperity, all of this stuff. So you were sort of learning through food, but it was, the reward was the food. I mean, we had very right-wing people that were coming just because they loved the food. They didn't care about the politics. They just really liked to eat the food.
But it was nice to have those messages woven into
Yeah.
it. But that, again, comes back to the curation. All right, so we'll move on to the next one thing that I'd be